Hi guys, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. A while ago, I did a video discussing the Japanese guinea pig films and I was so overwhelmed by your responses and I'm so glad that you guys liked the format. So today I'm back with the same format to discuss and explore video nasties. But what are video nasties? Censorship has always been taken into great importance in the UK, but in the early 80s when videotapes were first released, there was no certification system in place for home entertainment. So when horror movies on tape were circulated throughout the UK uncertified in the early 80s, it created massive panic. The videos were criticized for their violent content and tend to deprave people and corrupt them. This led to a public debate over the concern of the availability of these films. Because think of the children, really, that's what they were worried about. They were worried about younger people obtaining these videos on the unregulated market. Social activist Mary Whitehouse was among many who were very vocal about their concerns. Whitehouse was involved in the press and created a lot of social panic. Practically overnight, the British Board of Film Classification had to classify hundreds, if not thousands of tapes with the same type of ratings that theaters have been going by for decades. To assist local authorities in identifying obscene films, the Director of Public Prosecutions created a flagged list of 72 films they believed to violate the Obscene Publications Act of 1959. This list meant these films were illegal to hold or distribute, and this list was commonly referred to as the video nasties. And before you get too excited, most of the censorship reasons for these films are blood, guts, and violence, something we've become very desensitized to in the 21st century. You'll also find a lot of familiar films along these nasties. There's a huge sliding scale of what I would say are films understandably censored to those that are now horror standard. And you are bound to have seen a huge chunk of these nasties yourself, with the list featuring Prom Night, Suspiria, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Rabbit, Friday the 13th, The Hills Have Eyes, The Cannibal Holocaust, Bay of Blood, Tenebrae, Dawn of the Dead, and even The Evil Dead. The list of video nasties was first made public in June of 1983, but then went on to be modified monthly as prosecutions either failed or were dropped. 39 of these films were prosecuted under the Obscene Publications Act, but some of these films have since been cut and approved for release. The remaining 33 were either not prosecuted or had unsuccessful prosecutions. And although I mentioned a lot of well-known nasties in this video, I wanted to dive deep and see how nasty they really go. I wanted to see the darkest, the most controversial, the most out there films, because that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here to watch them so you don't have to. I dug up 3 of the most controversial films from this list that I could find. These films became part of the prosecuted list. The first one is an Italian film from 1980 called Anthropophagus. The blurb states a group of tourists become stranded on an uninhabited island where they are stalked by an insane, violent, and grotesque killer. As of 2015, this film passed with an 18 certificate with a warning for strong, gory violence and horror, obviously, but it was passed under the title The Savage Island. A couple of facts about this film before I watch it that I think are gonna really paint a picture for us. The fetus that the man-eater eats in this film is actually a skinned rabbit. Fetus, okay, I can look forward to that. Also, 2 of the producers from this film actually went and saw a screening at the theaters, and they watched every single member of the public walk out, disgusted during the duration of the film, and they were the only 2 to sit through the entire film. Yay. The second film is going to be Absurd from 1981. In this one, a priest comes to a small town to help get rid of a monster, and this creates problems as the monster is very hard to kill and then decides to go on a killing spree of its own. That's what the blurb said. How weird was that blurb? This one was on the list of the original video nasties before people were added and people were taken off. And fun fact, the uncut version of this film only became available in the UK in 2017. The last film I'm going to watch today is called Axe. It's from 1974 and it was also released under the title of Lisa Lisa. In this one, 3 criminals on a murdering spree arrive at a farmhouse where a girl is living with her paralyzed grandfather. This one originally passed with cuts for cinema and it was also released with 19 seconds cut in 1999, which what are those 19 seconds? I want to know. And it was finally released uncut in 2005. Quickly, before we move on to the vlog reaction part of this video, I do want to mention another movie, Island of Death. I looked up this movie to watch it and I realized I have already seen this movie. I actually did a review of it in my 31 Days of Horror in 2015. If you guys don't know what 31 Days of Horror is, every October I watch 31 movies that I've never seen before and do little vlog reviews, kind of like what I'm gonna do today. And my reaction to it is really funny, so if you do want to see a bonus clip, I'll leave that down below. Anyway guys, let's go figure out what these video nasties are all about. I'm sure you've seen a huge list of these movies, and I'd love to know what are some of your favorites down below. Without further ado, let's do this. Holy hell. Okay, I just finished watching Anthropophagus, or some people say some people spell it with the H and some people don't spell it with the H. So I'm very confused on this matter because I've seen some official articles about the release of the DVD that was released in 2019, actually this year, and that was with the H. But in the IMDb page, it doesn't have the H. I'm very confused. Anyway, I just finished watching it. It's also known as The Grim Reaper, The Zombies Rage, Man Eater. It's under a lot of titles because I think when they submit these things to get classified, again, cutting out stuff, they just try and put it under different names to see if it will fly. So there's a lot of different names that all these films are done by. I did not mind this film. I actually thought this film was kind of good, which was very surprising to me. The parts that get really gross are only towards the end of the film. A lot of it is like a really good setup and a really good like tension building in this small island where they're trying to like figure out what's going on there. I wouldn't say it's about a bunch of people who get lost on this island, like the blurb kind of said. I'd say it's more about people going to an island and trying to figure out where the people are, and then this crazed man is on the loose who's just... Man, he, like, the makeup's really bad on him, but he's quite scary, and the bits that had all the gore and the, I don't know, the guts and the blood were quite fake. It's very fake. But I do think that it is kind of justified what got them in trouble because, as I mentioned before, there is a fetus, and it's pulled from a pregnant lady. Like, killing a pregnant lady is a lot in horror, and although we've seen a lot of modern films, especially French films like Baby Blood or Inside that explore, you know, the pregnancy and death and pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. This one, yeah, I think it might have been a bit ahead of its time to kill a pregnant lady, and especially to remove her fetus from her and eat it. Like, that was a lot. It was very fake, but it was a lot, and I can understand that. But otherwise, I actually didn't mind this movie. I thought it was going to be a lot campier, and a lot more blood and gore and, like, guts and, I don't know, disgusting and dark stuff, but it really wasn't. Again, am I desensitized? I didn't think it was that bad. I do think that the music was super cheesy. It had that kind of giallo feel to it, but it was also super, like, I can't explain it, but it sounded like computer noises, and I didn't like the theme. But otherwise, I actually would recommend this film. I didn't mind it at all. If you're into something a little bit more cheesy, and you want to see something that kind of pushes to the limits, but also has, like, a really good setup, would recommend. That's very surprising. So the next film I'm going to watch is Absurd, and this should be really interesting because it's actually by the same director and it was only 1 year later. So he really got his fill of nasties. I just can't believe that film I just watched, Man Eater, whatever you want to call it, is one of the most controversial video nasties. Like, it's not even that bad. What? So we'll see with Absurd. It should be interesting. A little bit of a switch up. As I said before, it's about a priest who goes to a small town to try and find a killer on the loose. So it's kind of like the same theme-ish, but we'll see what happens with the priest. See if it gets a little bit controversial. Hey guys, I just finished Absurd, and I have to say I'm not as big of a fan of this one as I was with the last one. Funny thing, it's the same director, I believe it's the same actor. There's actually a list of a couple of things that are similar between this film and the last film. Obviously the director, as I said, and then the presence of a homicidal man, played by George Eastman, effectively in the same role as the one he played in the first film. A man is disemboweled in both films, and in both films they're also associated with a Greek island. He says that the director attempted to make the film more attractive to American market by setting it in the United States, even though it was shot in Italy. I don't think so. Like, I think that the first one was way better. This one was quite slow and not as much tension building, and it had so many characters in it that it was just trying to build it all up. There was a lot of gore, more towards the end, I would say, but there's definitely, I get why it was banned. Again, I understand. If it's not classified, it needs to be classified. I totally get that. And I think that it's a really interesting conversation. I don't know how you guys feel about censorship and things being classified, but I don't think it does anyone harm watching things as of age, as long as it's, you know, like, I wouldn't say The Evil Dead, you have to be 18 to watch that. But films like this, I get sometimes why you have to be a little bit older. It does have a shocking scene at the end where a little girl decapitates the killer and then holds up his head, so that was a lot. Again, major spoilers, I said in this video. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I could take and leave this one. Do I think it's controversial? I don't know. Like, it's controversial for the fact that there's blood, guts, and gore, but other than that, I don't see what the big deal is. Again, am I desensitized? Probably. But I would say the first one was a lot more controversial just because of the baby death. Baby death is always going to be controversial in a film, especially when you eat the fetus. That's going to be a problem. This next one I'm going to watch is going to be a little bit more controversial, I think. Just by looking at the poster, it looks like it could be a rape revenge film. I'm hoping it's not, because I really am not a big fan of those kind of films. But her having it out with these three strange men in her house, like, I only know one direction that horror unfortunately goes with that. So this should be interesting, and it should at least be something different to the first two that I've seen today. And hopefully this one will be a good finale to the video. Fingers crossed. Well, there you go, guys. I watched 3 video nasties in a row. What did I think of that last one? Lisa or Act. It was a very low budget production, and I actually pulled up some details on this, that it was shot in 8.5 days. There was not much stock that they could use for the film, so nothing got like a reshoot if it needed one. The film only goes for an hour and 8 minutes, so it's quite short as well. And I believe the bulk of the crew were paid only $10 per day, and there's a tracking shot that's done in the film that is with a shopping cart. So it seems like a very low budget production. I'd say it's a very simple storyline. Yes, unfortunately, it did have a rape scene in it. And I'm not sure if I've seen the censored version, if this was the censored version, because you don't see very much. Although I do think that it still would have been classified as how I saw it. It would have been cut because there was some like really bloody scenes. The thing that I kind of liked a little bit more about this film, opposed to all of the other rape revenge films I've seen, is that the revenge was straight away. It was not best served cold by any means. As the act is happening, she starts killing him. I felt like that was kind of like a cool switch up, and I liked the fact that she was seen as like the innocent person the whole time, and then she ends up, spoiler alert, obviously, killing everybody else in the house and kind of like blaming it on other people. Like, I don't know where he went. I think he went on a walk while he's like dead in a trunk. But other than that, the film was very basic, and yeah, I don't know, it was just a very straightforward film. I think that something all of these films have in common is that the kill scenes are pretty sketchy. They're all really like high saturated blood, that really giallo look blood that's like cherry red and very fake. They all have very fake props. They also use cutting in a way where they don't have to show certain things. Like in this film, she goes to cut a chicken's head off. It shows her raising the axe, but not the actual act itself. So I feel like they cut around a lot of it. I don't know if it's because this has been cut out, but I still feel like this was to the standard of being very controversial for the time, a woman just like killing these men in such brutal ways, and there's even a aspect where she almost commits suicide, which is quite heavy, and I think that that might have been something that tipped them off. Anyway, again, I wasn't a huge fan of that one. It seemed very basic, but I really loved that first film I watched today. I thought it was great, and if you're gonna watch any of the video nasties and you've seen all like the normal ones, you know, all the Suspirias, Tenebrae, you know, Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all the ones that you know I would recommend that one. If you're gonna watch something a little bit different, I would totally recommend it. Do I think the video nasties are that nasty? No, I don't. But I do agree with having a classification, especially to a certain level, depending on how old you are. There's no rush. There's so many horror movies to watch. There's no rush to go out and, you know, watch the scariest or the grossest or something with, like, you know, super adult themes. There's no rush to go see those kind of films. I do know that Cannibal Holocaust is one of the video nasties that a lot of people talk about. I've done a whole stream on Cannibal Holocaust, and I'm not a fan of that film. I think it is very offensive. So those kind of films, I understand why they put a classification on there. And also a fun fact on the classification kind of situation with it, the classification body of the UK actually changed their name around the time of this whole thing happening to classification, because before it was actually the censorship board, and I guess that really shows that they're censoring. So they've gone from censoring stuff to classifying stuff, which is quite clever. Anyway, I hope you guys learned something new from this video, learned something new about video nasties. I definitely did, and I can tell you they're not as bad as we thought. Let me know what your favorite video nasty is down below. I'd love to know, and maybe I can review it coming up soon sometime. But I hope you guys have a great day. If you did like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe, do so. We're on the road to 30K. Woo! I hope you enjoy, once again, this kind of different dynamic. I'm glad you guys really enjoyed my guinea pig video, so if you haven't seen that and you like this format, go check that one out. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye!